Let's talk about the resources that are required for the Cisco ICE deployment. So basically, let's talk about the virtualization first. So Cisco ICE is available for the in the VMware or also in the Hyper-V, also in the cloud, in the Amazon, as well as in the Azure. Now, these two can be very expensive because Cisco ICE will take a lot of storage. So the storage is very expensive on the cloud. So you have to make your decisions accordingly. Now, coming to the virtualization in our lab, I will be using 16 GB RAM, but recommended is 32 GB. But I will be using 32 GB since I have my server has the 192 GB RAM and 32 cores of CPU and 3.2 TB of hard disk. So I can allocate 32 GB of RAM. So that should be fine for me. So I will be using the 32 GB, but the virtual CPUs I will be using only 4. So, but the recommended is the 12 virtual. So if you are implementing the virtual ICE in your organization, so you have to keep a note track of that one, what is the capability. So I will come to that one in just a minute. But for the lab, I will be using 32 GBs for the primary and secondary, 32 and 32, and 4 virtual CPUs and 300 GB of hard disk and 300 GB of hard disk. Now coming to the organization or production one. So you do have three different types. That will be the small, medium, and large. Now coming to the virtual devices, again, you do need to have the virtual license, which will represent the small, medium, and large. So let's talk about the physical device. And the physical device, the small, the model will be SN3715, 3715 model, so which will be having 12 cores of CPU, and I think RAM will be 32 GB of RAM and 600 GB of hard disk. So you do not have any RAID capabilities on this one, but you do have the two 10 gigabyte ports and four 10 gigabytes of SFP ports. The medium one will be SN3755, which will have 20 core CPUs and 96 GB of RAM with four 600 GB hard disks. And you do have a RAID capability of that one, that is RAID number level 10. Again, the same thing, two 10 gigabytes of port and four 10 gigabytes of SFP ports. And again, on all the Cisco ICE, you do have TPM chip encryption. So that's the secure one. So TPM is the secure chip security. Now coming to the large one, that should be SN3795 with 20 core CPUs and 256 GB of RAM. And again, this one has, I think, 600 GB of hard disk, and RAID level is also 10, and the same ports, two 10 gigabytes of ports, Ethernet RJ45 ports, and four 10 gigabyte SFP ports. So these ports are different. These are RJ45 port, these are SFP ports. So within one port, you can have multiple RJ45 ports. So these are the different devices, physical devices, and the virtual device. Now, if you want to implement the virtual device, which is small, you have to make sure that you do have 12 cores, 32 GB of RAM, and 600 GB of hard disk, at least one gigabyte of port. So recommended is a 10 GB one, but 1 gigabyte of port, that should be also enough. Now coming to the virtual medium one, again, you have to match the same 20 cores and 96 GB and four different hard disks of 600 GB. You have to match these things. And after that, here you can have 2 gigabytes of port, or you can have multiple gigabytes ports. So basically this is a virtual, so you don't need to have 10 gigabytes of ports. So in the physical, they have implemented the 10, they have installed the 10 gigabyte ports. but on the virtual, it's up to you. So you think that you don't have that much of traffic. You have uh, taken this one as a, what do we say, medium. You have implemented the medium Cisco eyes, but it doesn't need that. You do require the 10 GB until and unless you are implementing that many features in that one. So accordingly, you have to have it. But if it's a large one, so at least I think that it should be at least 10 gigabyte port here, one 10 gigabyte port. So that's what I think, but I'm not sure about the virtual, how much that, but you have to match at least the requirements of the physical ones. Now let's look at the endpoint support for the small. If it is in the stand alone, then it will support up to 25,000 endpoints. If it is in a distributed environment, then it will support 12,500 endpoints each ICE. Now coming with the medium one, the in the standalone it will support up to 50,000, but if it is in a distributed, each node will support up to 25,000. In the large, if it is a standalone, that will be 100,000 endpoints will be supported. And if it's in a distributed environment, then it will support, each node will support 50,000 endpoints. So those are the supported endpoints in the individual uh, categories. I hope this was informative for you, and thank you.